Hello everyone, back tuning into today's video. We're going to have a look at the weather for next week to 10 days for today's video. This takes us towards the end of September actually. We go to around 27th of September, day 10. We'll also have a look at the CFS V2 for the next month. So that's going to take us well into the second half of October. So we're really cracking on with the year now. The month ahead, 30-day forecast are taking us into the middle of the autumn, into the second half of October, so well into proper autumn with the updates now, particularly month ahead updates. So we'll start off bringing you up to date with what's going on in terms of tropical activity. Things are calming down. We've had a real burst of storm and hurricane activity over the past couple of weeks, but things are now beginning to calm down a little bit. So we'll start off there. Then I'll bring you up to date with everything that's happening with Helene, and then we'll go on and have a look at weather next week, 10 days, and then the next 30 days with CFS. So let's begin in the tropics, and we've got our three areas of interest still. So first of all, let's deal with this yellow X down here. That's an area of thunderstorms in the Caribbean. It has a low 20% chance of becoming a storm or tropical storm feature in the next 48 hours, and a low 20% chance of becoming a tropical storm in the next 5 days. So at the moment, that doesn't look like it's going to do very much at all. Then we've got Joyce over here. You'll notice Helene has disappeared from these charts of National Hurricane Centre now. That's because it's gone subtropical, so it's no longer a tropical storm. It's heading towards Ireland and the UK right now. We have still got tropical depression Joyce. So let's just see what they're saying about Joyce. So giving sustained winds of 35 miles an hour there. And that's the position of Joyce, just sort of meandering around. Although actually it doesn't look like we ever truly sort of get rid of it. At the moment on Monday, to the south of the Azores, it's a tropical depression. Then we go through to Thursday, and it's just sort of meandering around, not going anywhere fast. By that point, it's down to a post-tropical depression. But we keep an element of Joyce going throughout much of the week, but shouldn't really be affecting any populated areas. And then, of course, we've still got Florence. So this is the remains of Florence just here, now down to a tropical depression inland on the eastern side of the United States. Let's see what's happening with Florence. So at the moment, it doesn't look like there's any particular report about Florence. So let's have a look at the public advisories just there. So it's inland, and it's got sustained winds at the moment of 30 miles an hour. It's going to go post-tropical in the next 24 or so hours. Still keeping sustained winds of between around 40 and 50 miles an hour, though, right way up to 120 hours away. Let's see if there's any more information that we can get about Florence. Let's try clicking that again, and we can see the rainfall potential, I suppose. So we see that it is gradually moving northwards, this storm, and its current position is going to be somewhere around there, of course. The rainfall potential with this is kind of like going to be 1-2 inches as it gets up towards those far northeast states. Talking about states such as Maine, Massachusetts, going right way up to very far northeast of America. It does look as though it's moving out into the Atlantic as well, so it is possible that by the weekend, we've got areas of low pressure heading towards the UK, across the Atlantic, through this week and into weekend. It's possible by weekend we might get some sort of remains of Florence heading our way. But this is a much weaker storm now compared to the storm that gave such devastation to the Carolinas from rainfall primarily over the weekend. So things are calming down, as I say. We should see, well, Joyce is going to keep meandering around, but he's not going to do a great deal. Florence will gradually be fading out as it heads up into that sort of area this week. And then this yellow X down here doesn't look like that's going to do very much either in the Caribbean, famous last words. So it looks like for this week, anyway, things are going to be calming down a lot in the tropics. Now, we have got the remains of Helene heading towards us. So this facts chart from UK Met Office, this is for 6 o'clock in the morning tomorrow. What's happened with this is that the area of low pressure has gradually been trending a little bit further southwards. So now it looks like the strongest winds associated with Helene, rather than being sort of Scotland, Northern Ireland, up the Irish Sea, it looks like the strongest winds are going to be more focus around parts of Northern England, parts of Wales, possibly into the Midlands too. That's where we've got the most tightly packed ice bars. And further north, actually, the ice bars look relatively spaced out. So weather warnings have been shifted a bit further southwards by the UK Met this morning. However, the worst of the rain looks like it is going to be up in the north, associated with this area of low pressure. So that's the latest radar picture from the Weather Outlook. You see, it's already pouring with rain, particularly across much of Scotland. Showery bursts across Northern Ireland into west of Ireland as well. That rain's going to get more widespread in the north and the west through the course of this afternoon and into this evening. These are the weather warnings by the UK Met Office. So you can see that the warning is really now for England and Wales, much less so for Scotland and Northern Ireland. Where we've got that yellow hatched area is where we're expecting the worst of winds, where the UK Met expecting the worst of winds. And that's really for Northern England, particularly down to Wales, down to southwestern England, and also over towards the Midlands. Now, earlier on today, the Midlands wasn't really being brought into this warning. So this definitely been shifted a bit further south, this area that's at risk of quite windy weather. So what they're saying is that a spell of strong winds, the western and some central parts of the UK during Monday night and Tuesday morning. It's a yellow warning for wind. They are expecting some damage from trees and also there might be some delays on road, air and ferry transport. Probably some bus and train services affected, with journeys taking longer, delays. The high-sided vehicles on exposed routes and bridges are likely, and there could be some short-term loss of power and other services as well. You'll notice Scotland and Northern Ireland out of that yellow warning for wind, but there will be some quite heavy rain coming through. That's for today. I mean, tomorrow, again, very similar areas look like they're being brought into this wind warning, particularly through the course of tomorrow morning. I would have thought Wednesday is interesting because then the risk of significant wind shifts northwards. So on Wednesday, actually, Scotland, Northern Ireland and Northern England have this warning for strong winds. Actually, winds on Wednesday will probably be stronger than the winds coming up tonight and tomorrow. We could be talking about gusts up to 70, maybe even 80 miles an hour. Wouldn't rule it out across the northern parts of Britain on Wednesday. So we are going into a much more active phase, definitely, with the Atlantic compared to what we've been in for some time. As far as temperature is concerned, though, not only is it a case of this low pressure bringing wind and rain, it's got the remains of Helene with it, also seeing very warm temperatures as well. So it's a really warm afternoon at the moment down in the southeast. We're talking about temperatures at Stansted, for example, at 23 degrees. This is xcweather.co.uk, by the way. Headcorn Aerodrome in the southeast up to 23 degrees. Southend is up to 24. That's 75 Fahrenheit. That's not too bad at all for the 17th of September. And there's another hour or two of warming still to go. So I wouldn't be at all surprised to see those temperatures up to 25 or 26 degrees in the extreme southeast corner, getting close to 80 Fahrenheit through the course of this afternoon. As I say, that's way above average for the middle of September. It's not as warm as that, nowhere near up in the north. So, for example, at Loch Glascarnock, up in the north of Scotland, just 11 degrees. Outnahara, just 12 degrees. Kirkwell Airport, just 13 degrees. And down to Northern Ireland, it's cooler there too. Belfast at 13 degrees. Down to Leeds, Bradford, just 17 degrees. So much more typical temperatures, but further north and west you go, the warmth is really restricted to this extreme southeastern corner. But you see quite a few weather stations are flashed away. London City Airport is at 23 degrees and so on. So it's a very warm afternoon in the southeast, cooler in the northwest, and things will be turning quite lively tonight in terms of wind associated with the remains of Helene. Right, so just having a look at the weather for next week to 10 days. These are the 500 millibar high dynamic flow charts from Penn State University. Got the E70F here on the top, and the GFS, which we'll have a look at in a moment, is on the bottom. 500 millibars, 8,000 feet is an area in the absolute high pressure, low pressure are being moved around by the jet stream. Blue extrapolates to low pressure, and yellow and orange and red to high pressure. E70F has these deep areas of low pressure to the north of the British Isles and a strong jet stream as well. But the saving grace is that we do still have a ridge just to our south. So bringing a strong jet stream through across the Atlantic, through the country like that, and going into Europe to the north of the country. Jet streams coming through. This ridge is just about clinging on to its fingertips still across the far south of the country. But it is a much more unsettled week to 10 days coming up compared to what we've had for quite a while. GFS actually a bit stronger with this ridge and placing it almost over the top of the country in the 7 to 10 day time frame. But before we get to that, there will be unsettled weather with the GFS as well. Again, the jet stream and the flow is going rather like that, so we're still just about holding on to that ridge, but it's getting put under more and more pressure by the jet stream, by those areas of low pressure in the Atlantic Ocean. GFS temperature and precipitation ensembles next couple of weeks. Looking at Norwich today, the red line here is the 30-year upper air temperature average for Norwich. Starting off warm, of course, we've got these warm upper air temperatures associated with the remains of Helene, but from tomorrow onwards the upper air temperatures are basically downhill all the way. So by the time you get through to the end of the week and into weekend, it looks like we're going pretty cool as well. After that, through the final days of September and just now going into the start of October with the GFS ensembles and its operational runs, we see that again a lot of scatter through this period. So have got some warm ensemble members, some cool ensemble members, some that are in between, and some that are probably cool and warm sort of at the same time, just up and down with the temperatures on a day-by-day basis. So starting warm, going a lot cooler by the end of the week and next weekend, and after that, very uncertain. Precipitation-wise, we're going into a more unsettled period. Remember, this is for Norwich in the southeast of the country, so not too much rainfall before Wednesday, but then in the second half of the week and up to next weekend, have got more precipitation spikes showing up then. Beyond that, through the final days of September into the start of October, yes, there are some precipitation spikes. Probably not all that many, so that's extended range stuff. Again, there's quite a lot of uncertainty about late September and the start of October. The GFS is looking like this. So on Thursday, we've got an area of low pressure in the Atlantic heading our way. That could become quite a significant feature, actually, as we go through Thursday. You see this area of low pressure is sweeping in, bringing both heavy rain, and with the tight packed isobars, we see the risk of gale force winds, particularly for Ireland, England and Wales during the course of Thursday. That's 6 o'clock in the morning on Friday, that low pressure moving off the eastern side of Scotland. Then winds are turning into that much cooler northwesterly wind. That'll be a real sharp northwesterly that's coming down. They're very tightly packed isobars as well, so that could bring severe gales to northeastern parts of the country, northeastern Scotland down to northeastern England, and quite a cold, windy day through most parts of the country on Friday. This is where it all starts getting a little bit more uncertain. This is Saturday, so on Saturday we're trying to build this ridge to the south as that low pressure crashes into Scandinavia, but you'll notice there's more low pressure out in the Atlantic. So how that ridge that's trying to build to the south of the UK, the low pressure there in the middle of the Atlantic interact with one another is causing quite a lot of uncertainty within the model output. This particular run of the GFS actually brings this low pressure in across the UK through the course of Saturday, particularly focusing it on England and Wales. That would bring a lot of wet weather if it came off to England and Wales during Saturday and Saturday night. But again, that could be further north of that area. It might be affecting Scotland more than England and Wales. It could even stall out in the Atlantic and allow that ridge to build up. There is a lot of uncertainty about this weekend. Beyond that, by the time you get through the start of next week, it does look as though high pressure is rebuilding back in across the country. You saw it on the height anomaly flow charts. This is taking us up towards day 10, where high pressure remains close to the UK, within quite cool air though. So although high pressure builds back through the early part of next week, it will be within quite cool air. So expect cold nights, probably with mist and fog patches coming through as well. That's how things are looking at day 10. High pressure is close to the UK, more dry weather, not overly warm, unsettled to the north of the country. In the more extended range, this particular GFS run terms things very unsettled for the final days of September and into the start of October. But this is swinging wildly from run to run this period, so I don't think we can take that particularly seriously. ECMWF looks like this. So again, on Thursday, we've got wet and windy weather affecting the north. There's some sort of weather system in that sort of position. It could be bringing quite a lot of wet weather as well to some parts of the country. By Friday, that frontal system is pushing southwards, introducing this much cooler northwest wind. Doesn't make as much of that area of low pressure as the GFS. Remember, at this point, the GFS has gales affecting many parts of the country from Thursday to Friday. The ECM doesn't make as much as that, but it still looks relatively unsettled, and there will be rain moving in across the country. Into the weekend, well, this is the uncertainty with that ridge and the low pressure in the Atlantic. Rather than bringing that low pressure in over the weekend, the GFS actually, the ECM I should say, actually keeps it in the middle of the Atlantic, with the ridge building close to the UK. Again, it's within relatively cool air, so it's not particularly warm, but that's a drier solution for the weekend compared to what the GFS is showing. Going up to day 10, we look like that. So it's broadly a northwest-southeast split still. High pressure close to the south, bringing reasonable amounts of dry weather to the south and the southeast. More unsettled up to the north and to the west as well. Quickly running you through the GM, it's all very similar, quite unsettled up to the weekend. With this one, the low pressure is more across northern France and southern England, with a weather front trailing out rather like that. So again, so much uncertainty as early as around Friday or Saturday as to what's going on. Beyond that, it does look as though to start of next week, high pressure is resuming across the country, particularly for the south and southeast. That's how we finish up with the GM. A lot of high pressure and probably pulling up some slightly warmer air from the south again at day 10. So again, all models are disagreeing as early as around Saturday, really. Finally, just having a look at the charts from the CFS V2 for the next month. These are 500 millibar heights broken down into week periods. The first week period will take us from the 17th through to 23rd of September, with above average heights to the south in the coming week and below average heights up to the north. The jet streams coming through the country like that. So the driest, warmest conditions are in the south. The most unsettled conditions are in the north and in the northwest as well. That is week 2. It's the 24th through to the 30th of September. Above average heights close to the country, just centred a little bit to our west, means that we're pulling down relatively cool air from the north or northwest within that ridge. But again, a lot of dry weather would be expected in that scenario. Week 3, which is the 1st through to the 7th of October, has above average heights out to west of the country, below average heights up to the north. Again, a lot of dry weather with that, but with the jet stream going through the country like that, it is quite cool, particularly to the north and to the west. And then week 4, still with below average heights mainly up to the north, above average heights close to the country. So again, a lot of dry weather going well into October if this is right. Now the above average heights are beginning to get moved southwards with the flow and the jet, possibly bringing more unsettled conditions in from off the Atlantic. Temperature anomalies in the week ahead show a north-south split. Northern parts of the country cooler than average. England and Wales coming out warmer than average. Most places are going a bit cooler than average though from the 24th to the 30th of September. Generally average to below average temperature anomalies there. Week 3 looks like that. Again, temperature anomalies are close to average, and perhaps hinting again at being a little bit cooler than average, particularly to the north and to the west. And then week 4, finally, that lifts temperatures back up a little bit above average, especially so down in the south. Precipitation-wise, the coming week, 17th, 23rd of September, looks unsettled for the north with significantly above average precipitation, near normal down in the south. Then week 2 goes drier than average. Again, this is the 24th to the 30th of September. Generally drier than average precipitation anomalies that week. Week 3, the 1st through to the 7th of October, is also coming out average to possibly a little bit drier than average. And then by week 4, the 8th to the 14th of October, it looks like we're losing the signal really, going close to average with the precipitation then. But how seriously we take that, I'm not sure, because I don't think we've got this weekend sorted out yet. So let's concentrate on what we know. We're going to have the remains of Storm Helene with us over the next few hours. Just bringing typically breezy, windy weather, really. Nothing too excessive, although it will be quite wet in the north. And those gusts might go up to around 30 or 40 miles an hour down in the south. It doesn't look overly severe with that one. Then let's go through the week, though. It's getting more and more unsettled. We might get some very wet and windy weather around Wednesday or Thursday. All a little bit uncertain, even for that. And then over the weekend, we've got several solutions on the table. It might be very wet and unsettled at the weekend, or it could be relatively dry. And then next week, the trend looks as though it's to build high pressure in, at least for a time, trying to settle things down. But how long that would last, as the Atlantic is turning more unsettled with more buoyancy getting into the jet stream. So how long any ridge would last through next week remains to be seen. Right, that's brought you up to date with all the developments. We'll be back tomorrow with our ECM 30-day update, and we'll also have another look at the weather for the next week to 10 days as well. That's all for now, and thanks for watching.